discussions reach fever pitch on the eve of Scotland's historic big decision. The No campaign mounts a rallying cry as Gordon Brown pleads for the future of the Union.
I say, let's keep our UK pension, let's keep our UK pound, let's keep our UK passport, let's keep our UK welfare state.
But Alex Salmond presses on, insisting voters have nothing to fear of his dream of an independent Scotland.
One of the lessons from this campaign surely is that the Westminster view of the world has been overtaken by events.
Tonight, political temperatures are running high with the polls too close to call.
Also this evening, Thai police close in on the killers of 2 young Brits. Detectives there suggest the examination of vital DNA could be complete within hours. And another sharp fall in unemployment, but prices are still rising faster than wages.
This is ITV News at 6:30 with Julie Etchingham in Edinburgh and Alistair Stewart in the studio.
Well, good evening from Edinburgh on the eve of one of the biggest moments in Scottish history from a city which could become the capital of an independent Scotland. It is a once-in-a-lifetime decision. Tomorrow's referendum is expected to see the largest voter turnout Scotland has ever witnessed. Today, former Prime Minister Gordon Brown called on a silent majority to turn out and keep Scotland in the UK. First Minister Alex Salmond asked Scots to seize this once-in-a-generation opportunity for independence. Martin Geisler reports on both campaigns' final hours.
They say they speak for the silent majority. They certainly found their voice today. Love Scotland, vote no was the mantra at this, the last big pro-union rally. Politicians shared the stage with campaigners, real people with real lives, like trainee surgeon Vicky Gregg, who spoke out for the NHS.
I would not be here today if it wasn't for the lies I've been told by the SNP. They're telling it to every one of us.
Please welcome the one and only Gordon Brown.
Comedian Eddie Izzard compared, but the star of the show was the former Prime Minister. He delivered a thunderous speech, his voice faltering more than once with emotion.
The vote tomorrow is whether you want to break and sever every link, and I say, let's keep our UK pension, let's keep our UK pound, let's keep our UK passport, let's keep our UK welfare state.
And this message to those he feared may be swayed by pressure from the pro-independence movement.
Tell them that Scotland does not belong to the SNP. Scotland does not belong to the Yes campaign. Scotland does not belong to any politician, Mr. Salmond, Mr. Swinney, me or any other politician. Scotland belongs to all of us. The only answer for Scotland's sake and for Scotland's future is vote no.
The audience lapped it up.
The Yes campaign has become well known for shouting the loudest and being the more vocal. See, I think we have needed something like that.
The silent no majority must stand confident tomorrow, must go to the polling stations tomorrow and put an X in the no box.
Where was all this passion 2 months ago, 6 months ago?
Look, in a 2.5-year election campaign, you know, the passion inevitably grows. And as we get closer and closer to polling day, it's not surprising that that passion continues to grow.
It's a bit late.
But the polls don't close until 10 o'clock tomorrow night.
The Yes campaign could never be accused of a lack of passion. A sea of blue and white in central Glasgow once again today. Campaigning in the rather more benign setting of a nursery, the Deputy First Minister gave nationalists this rallying call.
Get out there for the remaining 24 hours of the campaign before polls open. Make sure you are engaging positively, respectfully with the Scottish voters. Treat everybody in this campaign with respect. And if we do that, I think Yes will win.
Now the talking is all but over. The ballot boxes went out this afternoon. The whole country is holding its breath. Martin Geisler, ITV News, Glasgow.
Well, Alex Salmond could be hailed as the leader of a new country on Friday, but there's still no agreement on how an independent Scotland would work with the remainder of the UK. Mr Salmond insists London will do deals, not least on Scots using the pound. But the Westminster parties say he's assuming far too much. Our political editor, Tom Bradby, sat down with him for one last look at Salmond's vision.
Guys, come on. He is the man of the hour, perhaps one who will tomorrow preside over the rebirth of an independent nation. But there's one curiosity about Alex Salmond. A lot of his plans depend on how his enemies down south in Westminster are going to behave after the split, particularly on the question of a currency union.
Yes, because it's in the best interest of Scotland and the rest of the United Kingdom. The rest of the United Kingdom is our biggest export market. We're the second biggest export market for England after the United States of America. What makes this compelling is in both our interests. It's enlightened self-interest. That means it's mutually beneficial for both parties.
So have you spent quite a lot of time at Westminster chatting to leading politicians from all the parties just to get, I mean, are you basing this on a sort of behind-the-scenes view of exactly what they think?
Behind the scenes view, of course, came in the Guardian newspaper, the senior cabinet minister who said, of course, there'll be a currency union. Now, the question for Scotland is, do we believe the Conservative Party when they're speaking privately, or do we believe them when they're trying to intimidate people in Scotland?
Every senior Westminster politician that I know, and every senior Westminster analyst that I know, who's lived through the Euro crisis, says the polar opposite to you. So what I'm puzzled by is what you're basing your analysis on.
Well, obviously your contacts can't be as extensive as the Guardian newspapers, but
one story. I'm talking about 5 years of accumulated knowledge.
Let's take Professor David Blanchford, a member of the Monetary Policy Committee. I mean, he's described the attitude of the Westminster parties as campaign rhetoric and nothing more.
He doesn't spend any time at Westminster either.
Well, yeah, he's a member.
Who spend their lives there.
Well, I think one of the lessons from this campaign surely is that the Westminster view of the world has been overtaken by events.
Do you think the English are going to be friendly neighbours?
You know, when I was a boy in Linlithgow, a long time ago, the lady next door was a lady called Nan Bothwick. She was a wise lady. She had a number of very favourite sayings, which I've taken with through my life, but one of her most favourites was that when Scotland became independent, as she put it, England would lose a surly lodger and gain a good friend and neighbour.
So after all the talking and debating and, yes, arguing, not too long now till we'll know. Tom Bradby, ITV News in Edinburgh.
Well, within the last hour, a new poll has put the two sides agonisingly close. The Ipsos Mori for STV found 49% of its respondents said yes to Scottish independence, while 51% favoured staying in the UK. This is with those who said they don't know excluded. In a contest so evenly split, there is little talk of anything else here tonight. Well, our Scotland correspondent Debbie Edward is in Glasgow. Debbie, away from the speeches and the rallies, this is a debate that's been going on in every family, in every pub, on every street.
Yes, Julie, you just have to look at the thousands who've turned out here in George Square tonight to give you an indication of the level of political engagement there is here in Scotland. It's of the like many people will never have seen before and may never have seen again, but it's away from mass gatherings like this one that you really get a sense for Scotland as a nation deep in political conversation.
What are you going yes or no, Stephen?
I'm going yes.
Wait, what are you going yes for? What's all that about?
At this cafe in Glasgow, their copy of the white paper is now well thumbed.
2 links on, yeah.
Today, like most days in the kitchen, they were debating independence.
It could go bad or it could go good. It could just the same for the no vote, but I think it's worth taking a chance.
The occasional customer drawn into the conversation.
Is there any no's at the front? Is anybody in the shop a no supporter?
Daily life in Scotland is being dominated by the decision facing people tomorrow.
No thanks is a yes.
Information, opinions and worries shared on street corners.
We see a few of these yes stickers on the windows, but then there's lots of windows that are blank, and I think the blank ones are the quiet no voters.
Teenagers Brogan, Jessica and Megan came into town today not to shop but to join a rally.
My mum was saying how it was really good for to see everyone young getting really back into politics like it was when she was younger.
Sometimes there have been those trying to have their say where it wasn't welcome, but it has mostly remained just a conflict of opinion.
I don't want an independent Republic of Scotland for my wee brother. I want him to know what we all had as being British, do you know what I mean? I don't want him having a Scottish passport. What's the difference? Why fix something when it's no broke?
Whatever the outcome, this referendum has fired a heated debate among the people of Scotland.
And giving us an indication of just how involved the Scottish people have become in this referendum debate is the fact that over 90% of the Scottish electorate have registered to have their say tomorrow, and turnout is expected to match that number. Compare that to your average turnout for a general election of just 65%. You know, when I've been speaking to people today, they've been saying that not voting tomorrow was never an option in a referendum where it means so much to so many, and for both sides, where every vote will count.
Debbie, thank you very much indeed for that. Well, there are a large number of Scots who will not be voting in tomorrow's referendum for the simple reason that they don't live there. Some are migrants to other parts of the UK, like Corby, known as Little Scotland since the 1960s. Paul Davis has been there and found the majority he spoke to were worried about being left as exiles.
It looks like Scotland. It even sounds like Scotland. But we're 200 miles south of the border, and here in accents they've never lost, they take a dim view of independence.
And they'll be sorry, I'll tell you that. Definitely.
From the 1930s, thousands of Scottish workers and their families settled in the Northamptonshire village of Corby, drawn by the jobs offered by the steel industry. Corby is still known as Little Scotland, with a thriving Grampian club, where between their bowls contests they're becoming increasingly concerned about a vote they can't enter, though they wish they could.
I'd have said no.
I definitely would have said no.
Well, I would have said no.
No. Definitely no.
And that's not because the exiles feel any less Scottish.
I'm Scots first, but I'm British as well, and it's too small an island to split up.
They may not have a vote, they certainly have strong opinions on the future of the country of their birth. Corby has already held its own unofficial referendum, and no one was too surprised when more than 70% of the Scottish exiles said no to independence. Just like north of the border, Scottish families living in England have been divided.
I would definitely vote yes. My personal opinion is that the English have lived off the backs of the Scottish for a long, long time.
His dad takes the opposite view.
I'd vote no, definitely. Definitely no. I think to me they're committing suicide.
They do agree on one thing. The real vote, unlike the exiles version, could be a very close thing. Paul Davis, ITV News, Corby.
Back now to our political editor, Tom Bradby, who's joined me here. What a night to be here, really, Tom. It's extraordinary.
Yes.
An extraordinary campaign. The polls so tight still. Have you ever known anything like it?
Well, no, not really. And I think I've said before that what's the difference between a leap of faith and a leap in the dark? And honestly, I suspect the answer is what your psychological attitude is to change. There is a lot of uncertainty. I was trying to push Mr. Salmond on the currency question again today. Didn't really get much further. A lot of his position is predicated on how the English, Welsh and Northern Irish react. Will they be good neighbours? We've heard very little from them. We don't know. It could be difficult going out in the markets and borrowing money. It could be difficult to support the level of spending. That's all true. On the other hand, the unionists say Scotland will be permanently poorer. Pretty unlikely, I would say. Look at this country. It's vibrant. It's got a highly educated workforce. It's a business opportunity. Some businesses may go, some may leave. Scots have been digesting all that for years, frankly. I think there's nothing we could say at this point that's going to surprise them in any way. They've heard all the arguments. A lot still undecided, unbelievably in a way. Tomorrow's make your mind up time.
Thrilling time ahead. Tom, thank you very much indeed. And you can join Tom on Facebook just in a few minutes' time to ask your questions about the Scottish referendum campaign. Just go to facebook.com/ITV News, where you can post your questions and he'll answer as many as possible. That's Ask Tom on facebook.com/ITV News right now. And that's all from me for the moment. I'll be back a bit later in the programme, but now it's back to Alistair in the studio for the rest of the day's news.
Indeed, still to come, all the rest of the day's news, including why DNA tests could reveal the murderers of 2 British tourists killed in Thailand, and improving unemployment figures, but wages still lag behind. We'll have all of the details after this break. police in Thailand say they could be closing in on a breakthrough in the murders of British tourists David Miller and Hannah Witheridge. They're awaiting the results of DNA tests on their chief suspects, 6 Burmese migrant workers. And as Neil Connery reports, 2 British men have also been tested, who police say need to be ruled out.
3 days after the murder of 2 British tourists, Thai police say they've strong evidence which has led them to 6 Burmese suspects. Bloodstains on clothes were found and are now awaiting DNA tests. As police investigations continue on Koh Tao, where the 2 British tourists were murdered, Thai detectives say they'll do whatever it takes to solve the case. David Miller and Hannah Witheridge were found dead on a beach on Koh Tao on Monday. A garden hoe believed to have been used in the attack was discovered nearby. Thai police have now questioned 2 British men, Christopher Ware, seen here, and his brother James. Both were friends of the victims and in the same apartment. They've not been arrested, but are with police as the investigation continues. The 2 persons could be suspects, the police chief says, but we're awaiting forensic results. British Embassy staff met with officials at the Thai Police Forensic Institute in Bangkok following post-mortem examinations.
Our sensitivities to the family at the moment are paramount, so we're not going to say any more than that. At the moment, I can't talk anymore. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The head of forensic medicine revealed some of the details. The man died from being hit on the head and drowning, he said. The woman from being struck on the head. The police are under pressure for results. They're hoping DNA tests due back tomorrow will help them bring those responsible to justice. Neil Connery, ITV News.
A charity campaigning for the release of a British man who's being held by Islamic State militants in Syria have released previously unseen footage of him on the day before he was captured.
It's all worthwhile when you see what is needed actually get to where it needs to go.
Taxi driver Alan Hemming from Manchester is seen as he and his friends travelled in an aid convoy to Syria on Christmas Day last year. He was kidnapped on Boxing Day. Disgraced PR man Max Clifford's launched an appeal against his 8-year prison sentence for a string of indecent assaults on 4 women. The 71-year-old was convicted in May of offences that occurred between 1977 and 1984. And an Oxford woman's become the first British volunteer in the fast-track trial of an experimental Ebola vaccine. If successful, it's hoped that it could be in emergency use in West Africa by the end of the year. Now, there were 2 key bits of economic data released today. Unemployment is down again. It's at its lowest since 2008. But wage rises still haven't caught up with the rate of price rises. Labour say it's an economic recovery, but it's not reaching ordinary people. Here's our political correspondent, Libby Vina.
Until last month, full-time work had eluded Bob Harty. But now he's got a job with a Manchester packaging company, and he's delighted.
I was only working part-time before. There wasn't a lot of money in that, and obviously with it being agency work, it's difficult to really take that step. But now that I'm here full-time, and there is a career path here for me.
In the period May to July, unemployment fell by 146,000 compared with the previous quarter to just over 2 million. The number claiming job seekers' allowance fell in July by just over 37,000 to 966,500, the first time for 6 years that it's been below 1 million. With the general election 7 months away, economic figures that the Prime Minister might once have only dreamed of.
That's great news for our economy, and it's great news for all those people who've got jobs. We haven't finished yet, we've got a lot more work to do, but this shows the long-term plan is working.
Up to a point, earnings rose by just 0.6%, well short of the current inflation rate of 1.5%.
The squeeze on household incomes is continuing unabated. And it will mean that by next year we have seen the biggest fall in real wages over a parliament at any time since 1874.
But having one of the lowest unemployment rates in Europe may still be something to celebrate. Libby Vina, ITV News, Westminster.
Finally, tomorrow, the people of Scotland are being asked to make a momentous decision, a choice that will affect their everyday lives, their finances and their futures. But for many, it will also pull on their heartstrings of how best to express their national pride. Dan Rivers has been on a journey through the Highlands to ask Scots if they'll be voting with their heads or their hearts.
It is one of the most sparsely populated places in Europe, and surely one of the most sublime. In this emptied land, Burns called the birthplace of valour, the country of worth, there might be solitude, but there's no escaping the debate.
The final push is on.
We're travelling across this epic landscape to see how the Highlands are facing a momentous decision. Near Aviemore, fly fishing instructor Jim Cornfoot is about to make the most important cast of his life, his vote for yes tomorrow.
I've been looking forward to this for, well, most of my working life, you know. We've got something to aim for. It won't be easy by any manner of means, but if everybody pulls together, better conditions for everybody.
But Ian Chisholm isn't convinced. A purveyor of Highland dress, he's patriotic but cautious.
Still undecided, Dan. I think it's going to go right to the rope.
A last push in Inverness by the Better Together campaign.
The reaction on the street is good. People that are supportive, our vote appears to be solid.
Yes, and keep it in your hands forever.
But the Yes Scotland campaign is also upbeat, claiming the winds of change are about to blow through the Highlands.
Here in one of the most beautiful and remote parts of Scotland, many people feel disillusioned with the politics of Westminster. The Yes campaign is gaining ground here, but it's still going to be a close-run thing.
And with increased devolution being offered by the Unionists, that alienation might not necessarily translate into people voting yes and taking the plunge for independence. Dan Rivers, ITV News, the Highlands.
And that's all so far for this evening. Mark Austin will be with me here in Edinburgh for News at 10. But for now, from Alistair in London and the whole team across Scotland tonight, bye-bye.